people used to go to New York to make it, to be something in the arts.
Lorne Michaels was this strange Canadian come into town with this weird idea.
We just happen to have the producer of the program, Mr. Lorne Michaels, with us. What should we look for on your program?
It's one hell of a day in my neighborhood.
Hey everybody, welcome to What the Flick, live not from Los Angeles. It's Ben and Matt and Christy and Alonzo talking about Live from New York, a documentary about Saturday Night Live, which celebrated its 40th anniversary this year.
Yeah, Live from New York. This is about Saturday Night Live. It's got a lot of interviews from some of the original cast. You get a lot of Lorne Michaels in here, a lot of producers. The access they get here is great, and it covers kind of the beginnings of the show and what it was like and kind of what led to the creation of that and what they set out to do within the culture, and then kind of examines its effect on the culture and as people came in, a little bit of what the different kind of vibe was like as the cast changed throughout the years. Let's watch a clip.
It's lasted through the ups and downs of America and the world.
He said it would be a cross between 60 Minutes and Monty Python.
Dear Rosanna Dana.
It was all anybody could really talk about. It was the dialogue of the year when it came on.
It's important to remember political comedy was essentially dead on American television.
As the writers, you sit around and go like, what's true about this story that no one's saying?
Man, it's cool. I'm gonna be president. That's wicked.
Does it create a permanent stereotype that you gotta work to try to overcome? You're darn right it does.
It's gotta be all about job creation.
Bingo.
It's America right now, whether you like it or not.
People expect SNL to take issues.
People like when something goes down, like what are they going to do on SNL?
Stop being so gentle with that thing. Here, let me show you. Yeah!
It's the only form where everyone is necessary till the end. We don't go on because we're ready, we go on because it's 11:30.
Live from New York!
Live from New York!
Live from New York!
So I need to really fast say, I need to recuse myself from giving a number. I'm going to talk about it, but I should not give a number because one of the producers, Owen Mugen, is a very good friend of ours. So there you go. So go ahead.
There is a type of documentary these days that feels like if it wasn't actually commissioned by the people that it's about, that at least it's made with the thought of we're getting all this access in return for not digging too deeply into the areas you don't want us to talk about. And this feels like, if not the latter, maybe the former. I mean, this is an infomercial for how great Lorne Michaels is.
You know, we've seen in the last few years, Grantland and Vanity Fair and a few other outlets will do these great oral histories of movie productions. Mm-hmm. And that's what this feels like, because it's all very, if not superficial, it's all like kind of these through rose-colored glasses. And everybody's like, oh, hey, we did this, and here are the crazy stories, but nobody talks about
Bill Murray.
I hated these people. Right.
Yeah, Bill Murray beating up Chevy Chase or threatening to, or any of the juicy, like, there's the Tom Shales book, there's that other Saturday Night book. None of that gossipy stuff is in here.
None
this
of
is all like...
None of the heavy drug use and like
John
people sleeping with
Belushi.
each other.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's all, you know, it's all like kind of the best spin possible.
It's an oral history of people who loved being part of the thing that they're talking about. And what...
Boy, you'd love to hear from Piscopo in this, wouldn't you?
You would, but there's also none of the... You know, there's none of the there's no Sarah Silverman about sort of getting ignored in the writers' room, and I don't, or any of the writers getting ignored in the, or the massive tension felt between performers and artists, or performers who don't get their stuff. All the stuff that I think is by far the most interesting part of this collaborative artistic effort to make something funny for 90 minutes every Friday. Is it Saturdays that it's on?
Sometimes Thursdays.
Mostly Sunday, actually.
Wednesday Night Live.
So all that is missing. All they do is, the only negatives are, look how we've sort of struggled but overcome our sort of inherent sexism, because most of the writers' room is men, and look how we sort of overcame kind of the race issue that we have. None of that seems super interesting to me, since although they struggled to have black cast members, they were always on the right side of those, to me, and which is definitely the right side, of those discussions in America. It's not like they were a show that was.
They were really late on like having black cast members. I mean, like
no, but they didn't do skits that mocked protesters.
No,
I mean, they were well-meaning people who may have been on the wrong side.
Okay, for example, they if you'll remember in the old Star Trek sketches, the guy who played Sulu is like a production designer on the show because he was the one Asian guy they could find. There has still never been an Asian cast regular on this show, and that's just sort of like never mentioned. The idea that the years that Lorne Michaels wasn't on the show, except for like a brief mention of Eddie Murphy, ignored completely. And then wait a minute. Then the other thing is that they talk about how then Lorne came back and it was Phil Hartman and Dana Harvey, and it's like no, Lorne came back and it was Robert Downey Jr. and Randy Quaid. No one ever talks about that season, So that's when I realized, okay, this is not a documentary. This is like a late-night infomercial for the VHS release of the Dean Martin roasts, because this is just a sales pitch. It's not a documentary.
What's frustrating about this is you get hints of, like, the closest thing you get to anything scandalous or anything that shows kind of shows the warts and all is, they talk about Garrett Morris, and who was the only black cast member in that first cast, and how nobody was writing for him, and they struggled to find roles for him. And then Julia Louis-Dreyfus talks about her struggle, and she came in, and she's I was 21 at the time, and you look at the pictures of her, and you're like, oh my God, she's so young.
How did she describe it? She described her time in a great way.
One of the things she said was, I didn't realize you had to come in with a stable of characters, which is what a lot did.
But she was a non-Lorne year, right? So they
that was Dick
again. There's that brief window where they talked about a few things, but very little.
But she slammed her season. I mean, at the end, she sort of assessed her season. I can't remember.
But even that,
because it was a non-Lorne season, so of course it sucked.
But even that, she was like diplomatic about it. She wasn't like, oh my God, we sucked and I hated it. She was like,
right, because her husband was on that season.
Yes.
He was a writer?
Yeah, Brad Hall.
No, he was a cast member.
He did the news.
Okay. I don't remember. But
they did that great Rain in Spain thing.
They touched on the Andrew Dice Clay scandal thing and the Sinead O'Connor stuff, but they really give themselves way too much credit for like the Sarah Palin stuff, which was a funny sketch and I think really effective, but I would have loved an alternate voice of somebody saying, this is kind of toothless satire, and also, this isn't really hard hitting. But no, it's so inside the park there.
Somebody made the claim that they think that Al Gore didn't get elected because of the scathing Al Gore impression. Is that who says that?
He said it's possible that it was an incredibly close race, and he thought that.
Well, that's giving him a lot of credit.
Well, but also
let me just say, I think it's entirely possible.
Do you?
First of all, he lost the election. Well, he won the election, but he lost. Well, he did. If you recount Florida, he won. But he's 537 votes down, and those debates made an enormous impact. It might have. There's no way we're ever going to know, but of course it could have made.
Well, and the flip side of that was also
the idea of this person in our mind.
But that combined with Will Ferrell making Bush seem like, that's a guy I'd have a beer with.
Right.
That's true.
Dumb but super likable.
And the idea of Chevy Chase falling all the time, like as Chevy Chase points out, Gerald Ford rather, he only fell like one time, but that became his signature.
Right. And for a guy like Gore, like the fact his goofy performance in the first debate and his sighing and eye rolling, and then Daryl Hammond just sort of hammered that again and again and again, as he should have, right?
Sure.
But it wasn't accurate in any way, but it stuck, and I think it might well have.
I will say this is probably the only documentary that will have original interviews with both Fran Lebowitz and Bill O'Reilly.
That's right. I hated that Bill O'Reilly was in it. I hated that Bill O'Reilly was in it. But I think it's dumb. Like, why is he in it? He's not funny.
No.
He's not. He doesn't get it. He doesn't understand. He's not important.
I'm sure it was balance.
Yeah, right. It was this idea of this dumb, fake idea of balance, and that's part of the reason why I dropped my score. He didn't say anything even moderately interesting, and he doesn't get it either. He doesn't get satire. He doesn't know what's funny, and he's a bully and he's mean. So his presence in it. There are plenty of
conservative people.
Plenty of conservatives who could have had a role in that movie. I got why you'd want some political balance to talk about the impact that it had to offset maybe Al Franken.
Well,
but you got to get your infomercial in front of the Fox News audience.
Right.
Sarah Palin appeared as herself with Tina Fey. She could have been on here to say, hey, I thought it was funny.
No question, it would have been interesting to hear from Sarah Palin.
And one of the things, like for example, the kind of inside baseball this movie doesn't want to give you. I was just rewatching recently. There was a sketch that got cut the week of the Ferguson riots, and the person writing about it for Screen Crush was saying that apparently James Downey, who's interviewed in the film, who was head writer for a long time, was actually leans to the right politically. And so Lorne sort of saw him as the litmus test of like, if he thought it was funny, then they could get away with it. And now apparently when sketches come up that lean to the left, Lorne doesn't have somebody to sort of bounce those off of, and so he's more skittish about him. I would have liked that level of inside baseball in this movie.
Right, talking about the politics. No, like they say they have this impact. I think they do have an impact. I think they have. I think they're much more corporate-y now, and I think there's a throwaway line in there that it's not. It doesn't have the sense of rebellion that it did in the
They're
beginning,
now the
and that it has intermittently even later. But it feels a little corporate-y now. But that would have been fascinating, a conversation about what. Because they know they're going to make a difference politically, what those fights are like. And look, everybody who likes Saturday Night Live, and I care about it deeply, and it's given us some of the performers I truly, truly love. But we all wonder how skits got on the air. Like we wonder, every week there is an 8-minute skit, or it seems like 8 minutes, that you're like, what happened? How is this there?
It's still going on.
Right, it's still going on, right? And it's okay. Like,
and it's
I
always
get
like
it.
in the back half of the
After
show,
the second performance of the band.
And I know, and all of us who are in any way involved in this business know that the reason it's there is because coming up with 7 great sketches is impossible.
Right.
Really
on
hard.
A weekly basis.
On a weekly basis.
Yes.
You might get it on certain days, but it's really hard, and over the course of a year, but I want that conversation, and I would love to have seen a couple of things that didn't work, and I would love to have heard from performers about what that's like when you come back and you don't get that rousing applause when you walk in and you've that's all interesting. That's all part of the show, is that we know, part of being live is that we know that skit might fail.
Right. Yeah, there is tanking.
And they don't ever really address that.
There's drama in that, and that wasn't in this movie.
I would love to have seen somebody talk about oh man, we did that sketch and it just bombed, and here's how you recover it. Like, you want to see that aspect of it.
Yeah, they go behind the scenes. I'm sorry, they go behind the scenes a little bit with the production manager, with the costume manager. I would like more of that. This movie is only 82 minutes long to encompass 40 years of one of the most influential television shows ever. They could have gone longer. This could have been 2 hours.
We know there's inherent drama in finishing one skit, going to commercial, and getting that set ready and getting those people ready to be out there. And we saw a little bit of running. I would love to have seen somebody yanking Bill Hader across the stage, like go, 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 while they're adjusting him right up till.
Yeah.
And then getting their hands out of the way right before they go.
Amy Poehler's book, Yes Please, will tell you more about that stuff than this movie even tries to. I like SNL. I just don't care for this movie. I was really disappointed.
I have a note for the next person who makes a documentary about SNL. Don't do a lot of VO from Lorne Michaels, because it sounds like Dr. Evil is narrating your documentary.
Right? Sharp with freaking laser beam. We just talked about
it all comes back around.
All right,
we started this show. It is Dr. Evil like that. For those people that don't know, Mike Myers is doing Lorne Michaels as his character for Dr. Evil, and it's hard to escape that watching this documentary.
It's really funny. All right, so what are your numbers then? Alonzo, what's your number?
4.5. It's slick, but it's empty.
Matt?
I give it a 5. It's interesting just for the people that they do talk to.
Okay.
I gave it a 6 just because I like these people, and if you like Saturday Night Live, I think you'll be happy that you saw this, even though it should be better. But I gave it a 6.
It's entertaining. Yeah. So 5.2 is their number. Where is it on Tomato Meter?
It's about 57 right now.
Okay. So I think it's everywhere, right? Maybe, is it VOD-ish?
I don't know.
It's in some places. Go look.
The
Bye.
50th needs to be better.
Bye.